Hello, investors, and welcome back to Just Raining Stocks. What do you own? Do you have Rocket Labs? Do you have Astra? Do you own both? What percentage of those do you have? Who's the better bet in the short term? And what is in your thesis statement? What is your reason for owning either one of these stocks? We're going to talk about all of that during this video. I'm going to tell you who my favorite is and why. And let's start by last week very briefly. Faster rate hikes, shrinking the balance sheet sooner after the rate liftoff takes place. These are some of the concerns that weren't captured. I don't think were completely understood by the market and investors, and why we seen us come from some of those top levels on where we were seeing that Santa Claus rally in the stock market, and we started to see some downtrend. Now, it wasn't all bad news, but I do want to tell you that the jobs report came out. It looked pretty good. Employment was looking well. You know, inflation is a big concern right now, and this growing inflation, a higher CPI number, when this comes out, this is going to be something you're going to want to watch. I believe the next one is going to be published this Wednesday, if I'm not mistaken. And then after this Wednesday, the new CPI numbers are published for December. Then in January 25th to 26th, the Fed is going to speak again, and this could be volatile for the market. Now, I really want you to pay attention to the CPI numbers and be patient with entering into some of these stocks. If you've set money aside, you're looking to cost average down or start a position. You know, both Astra and Rocket Labs, both of the prices were looking good. I meant Rocket Labs in the $10 range, or anything under $10. And then Astra in the $5 range, $5.75. It could be very interesting. Now, this week isn't over, and a shock could come to the market. So I want to talk about some things that could happen before then. Now, Astra announced a launch from their new location in Florida, which does paint a little bit of risk. You know, is this going to go well? This will be their only their second launch. So Rocket 3, maybe around January 18th. I don't know that this window has been officially announced by the company, so this could be a catalyst. Now, I wouldn't stay in my Astra position through the launch leading up to it. You know, there's that run up. I would lock in profits and I would sit back and watch. This company still has so much to prove. You're checking in on your thesis. Now, for those of you that like risk, you want to stay married to this stock at its very low price, I would say offload some of this, decrease your position size. This is not financial advice. And I would build my position around Rocket Labs, and I'll tell you why during this video. Now, this is what we're expecting as far as the schedule is concerned. Now, this is good. I think Astra is still on track and doing exactly what they need to be doing, but you're going to need to check this thesis statement very frequently to make sure that they are still on track to meeting all of their commitments. What is the reason that you bought Astra in the first place? Is it just because some YouTuber told you to? Is it because of another investor? You need to have your thesis straight and understand exactly what they need to do to become profitable and to fit into this model, and what is their accuracy for launch. They're still early into all of this. You really need, I'm going to tell you some of these things. We're going to look at the short report, and I hope a lot of you don't already have your mind made up on how you feel. Now, they needed to expand the number of locations where they were going to be able to launch from. And Florida is only the second location. They're going to need more launch locations to be able to build up this daily launch schedule. Now, they're going into monthly launch schedule next year, or this year. Actually, it's 2022. They're also looking, now don't forget, this November FCC application for 13,600 satellite constellations. They're going to need some help getting these satellites not only built, but put into orbit. So with their model and structure of only having 150 kilogram, 150, I believe it's 150 kilogram payload, they're not going to be able to do this all by themselves. So there's going to be some cost there. Now, everyone knows the short report came out, and most of you have looked through it, or you've seen it and you've already got your mind made up. Now, I'm going to highlight the points that stood out to me, because I've checked a couple of videos out there, and you might be like, Randy, you're about 8, 9, 10 days late. No revenue, no track record of reliability, and no established market for its undersized vehicle. So No revenue. I'll tell you what they're looking at. They're looking at the actual revenue that's been generated to date for this company. And I will tell you, on their income statement, they do not have revenue registered on their income statement right now. So that's true. A lot of these things that they are saying are true. Their balance sheet only has them at about $378 million. And as far as their cash flow statement, you can see it's just been net income burn. It's been red, negative. If you look at just this year, they have $206 million of burn. If you look at the very start of where they started recording publicly, they've got 232 million. Now it's important to understand this number, 206 million. We'll just say 200 million and maybe 250 million if you look at the whole quarter. If we were to add another 50 million, it's important to understand that because I want to go through the numbers in this short report. I want you to keep track of what their burn is, and once they do start registering, which this next quarter they could register some revenue on their income statement. So let's take a look at that. Poorly positioned, overcrowded market. That's opinionated, but I wanted to make sure I highlighted it because I think there's things in here that you have to see as, okay, that's actual factual, or that's just something that they feel or think. It's not tangible. Cheap, I would say that's a good thing. A lot of people that are invested in Astra know that they have an extreme focus on cost, off-the-shelf commercial parts, developing. Now, the competitors, some competitors and most competitors are developing reusable rockets made of carbon material that are able to re-enter, and they're taking a different approach. 300 launches per year by 2025. That's a whopping 10x more than SpaceX achieved in 2021. Now, what they're trying to do, and everyone knows that this is part of your thesis, right? So if you bought this, that's what you're expecting them to be able to do, is complete daily launches and start a daily launch schedule by 2025. So how do we keep up with that thesis? This year, they are supposed to start a monthly launch schedule. So are they completing launches every month? They've got three, maybe, I think they've got three scheduled right now on the calendar tentatively. So you'll have to see if they can execute to that schedule. Reality check. That's basically what the short report's all about. To date, Astra has managed just one successful orbital test flight. Yeah, that's true, but I still believe that this is all planned and they're on schedule as they plan to execute. I think these were all test flights, and the scheduled flight execution, everything is on schedule. I think they're doing it faster than any other company has. Now, this next part I have highlighted here says it's talking about the revenue, that it's only got enough to cover launches through 2023. Now, that's in the assumption that they burn at $50 to $60 million per quarter. And if you do look at their cash burn, if you look at just net income, you could see that if you were to total all this up, like I showed you previously, $206 million is what their burn was. So in total, $232 million. So they're saying basically they are expecting a $50 to $60 million quarterly burn is what I'm getting through this, if they are continuing to burn at that cycle, which I believe they have shocked and surprised as to how they are not burning so fast in some quarters. So I think that this company is very cost conscious, but you can't expect they're just doing a projection here, right? So this is a growth stock. They haven't completely taken off yet. They haven't started really generating revenue. They had a lockup period. This was a SPAC. For those of you that know and you've watched my channel, I talk about, and once you've owned one and you felt the burn of these lockup expirations and the timing leading up to lockup expiration, you learn very quickly, and you look for that when you're investing in a SPAC play. That's the first thing you're looking for. So, this is an easy short. Even with other companies that I've talked about on this channel, you know that price is going to go down. Now, this is the last thing I want to cover, because basically this entire short report comes down to this executive summary. This executive summary is 6 points. On their Twitter page, they have 7 points, I believe. But let's just go through here. Insufficient demand. I would say right now, the space economy has to be built by those people in the space. and Astra will have a difficult time with such small payloads helping to build a $1 trillion space economy. Now, who's going to be an instrumental player in that space of building this space economy and making it possible? Rocket Labs. I believe Rocket Labs, and especially with their new rocket that they're developing, Neutron, and I believe they're supposed to have that operational by 2024. You're talking about 8,000 kilograms versus 300 kilograms that they're operating right now. It's just massive. They're going to be very instrumental, and I think they're further along in their space program and satellite launching services, providing, building satellites, just everything. Rocket Labs is who I would heavily weigh more of my position. I would own both, but I mean, Rocket Labs is just doing it right now. Astra aspires to produce a 500 kilogram rocket in 2 years from now. So right now, I believe what they said during their call, it's under 200 kilograms. It's somewhere between 100 and 150 is what they have right now. They plan on building a 500 kilogram rocket 2 years from now. Now, they need to ramp up production, improve reliability. Now, reliability is going to be proven by the number of launches, and a 90% launch rate is a good launch rate. I believe that's what Rocket Labs has right now. Now, all that has to happen is for one of these flights, and this is the concern of the short report, is it's a risky play having to build up and launch so many times that just the difficulty of going to space. They have the ability to have about an 80% reliability goal, and I think it's fair to say that. But obviously, I mean, they're taking this percentage based of how many launch attempts were there without success, and then this last one was the first successful launch attempt. They've had to make a lot of adjustments, and 80% is not going to inspire confidence. So I get that percentage, but I would say they're doing this faster. And, this is really going to speak volumes for them to get this second launch in Florida at a brand new location under their belt. Now, here's the spend that I talked about before, 50 to 60 million per quarter. Okay, so I had that right, per quarter. You want to watch that. How much are they spending? What ends up being their net loss once they start generating revenue? Where does it sit? How far will that take them? So strategic direction. Now, this is where you have space businesses that are starting these satellite constellations, and even Astra, and I've got the article pulled up, is also wanting to generate their own satellite installation. I believe long term, this business wants to be a data company. So if they have their own constellation out there, then they're able to give data, which is exactly the whole reason why businesses would want to launch their own satellites. Now, of course, there's different purposes, but data would be a major purpose by a business wanting to launch their own satellites, or connectivity, mobile to mobile. There's different ones listed in their investor slide presentation. We'll take a quick look at that. So how are they differentiating themselves? Are they behind? Can they keep up with the competition? That's really the concern. So, I mean, they didn't let investors know that they were going to do this satellite constellation thing in their investor slide presentation. This was kind of something new that came up later. So what else will we find out that the company plans on doing just besides launching satellites to space? So I think it's fair to say that too. Now the space boom, right? SPAC IPO prices, 7 are trading below the SPAC IPO price, 1 is above. So I think that's important to just say, that this was a share price around $8, and now we did dip, and I even let some people on the Discord know that this is a buy at 575 in my opinion for Astra. Now you have to understand the risk with this play, but here's also the dates and the number of failed launches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lucky number 7. I think people have said that before. So they're on rocket 3.3. Launch vehicle number 7, and they'll have launch vehicle number 8 next. And let's see, down here we've got, while the number of small satellites in orbit over the coming years is sure to rise, So this kind of just contradicts, and I just wanted to show you that while I'm not going to go through this entire short report, they did contradict themselves a little bit while they're talking about there isn't going to be demand, but they did say that the number of small satellites in orbit will surely rise. Now, they do have this good depiction of what a small rocket looks like for Astra, and I think that's important. And right beside it, guess who this is? Rocket Labs. So they've got the concept down. Now, of course, this is a smaller rocket, and they plan on doing one that is going to be larger, that's going to have a bigger payload, and it can re-enter, and it's going to be reusable. And I think that's pretty exciting. Now, here it is. It's 150 kilograms in late of 2022, and by late of 2023, they're supposed to have that 500 kilogram payload. Now, I think that's great. They're going to have to do some tank adjustments, and by increasing the payload, and it's going to increase the way that the rocket performs. So there's going to be some risk there. So that's definitely something to watch out for. And I've got some other things highlighted in here. I'm not going to go through all those, but let me see what all I have pulled up for you. So first off, the estimates that show that there's going to be more than 100,000 satellites in orbit to orbit the planet by 2030. I mean, there's just all kinds of estimates that this is going to be a $1 trillion industry. There were some accusations made about, their intellectual property and whether or not Astra is outright buying engines from Firefly. I don't care how they get up there, honestly, but you do want to know that they strategically have a team in place, a group of people that they can get together to be competitive and make sure that they keep up with new technologies, and then they're not just using someone else's intellectual property. So that's just something that kind of sets Rocket Labs aside. Obviously, they're coming out with a Neutron in 2024, and it's a big deal for those of you that are following that. Now, Backlog is another one. So not only accuracy rate is something that I'm looking at, and Rocket Labs has definitely already performed, but Backlog is another one. 150 million backlog for Astra, I would say, is relatively small compared to, and we really don't know exactly what that's comprised of. Now, with Rocket Labs, they had, when was it? It was back in, I would say, November timeframe or earlier, about 180 million backlog. I think right now they have $237 million in backlog. So they almost have another $100+ million in backlog, just given that they're extremely active in the space right now. Now, the Constellation, here it is right here. So the overall Constellation operators helped boost the company's backlog from 183 million at the end of September to 237 million in the mid-November. That's a very quick ramp up for Rocket Labs. So the next thing I had was the valuation for Astra. They basically, in the short report, they said it went from, a $1 billion market cap to $2 billion market cap, like rather quickly. Well, you can see it's 1.5 right now. And if it dipped down just a little bit further, I would say that's a very reasonable market cap at the $5.75 range. But just remember some of these catalysts that I'm telling you about that are coming up, those macroeconomic indicators. So we've already went through the financials. Tip Ranks only has one $13 price target. I remember when this hit, the $13, and there wasn't many people. There was just one person in the comments. He's like, you'd be lucky to have this at $13. And I was like, you're just encouraging people to get stuck with stuff at this high price. So I like to buy low and sell high. If y'all have watched this channel, you know that. I just want you to be careful with this one because I believe there's more opportunity right now to short stuff in the market than there is to buy. Now, if you're looking to cost average down, I would say be patient. Now, of course, I was telling people, once again, I'll tell you, 575 looked good to me. I think Astra in the $5 range looks good. But I was calling that out because I knew that there would be new developments with them talking about this next launch. And launch for Astra could still be a catalyst to push this up to the $7.50 range. And that's what you're seeing here with the call actions for January 21st. You've got a little bit of call activity right here. You've got some open interest, some volume. 1,125, implied volatility 137. These are the calls that I would pick for January 21st at 750 if you've seen this dip down into the $5 mark, I would feel comfortable with getting that call. But of course, you want to push your calls out to February if you're looking to do that. Now, I don't think that there's like a ton of money to be made off these calls. You probably just want to cost average down and buy the stock at this point. There's really not too much action happening with these unless you get it at the 10-cent mark, if it allows you to do that here in the for the 750 call. So for those of you that like call options, you know this, you're probably more exciting to get into Nvidia or something. So here we are. Here we seen this price action last week on the charts. It went down here to, I think it was 574 if I'm not mistaken, but the chart here is saying about 570. It dipped down and then came back up, got green candle support, low volume. People still kind of, standing back on this, but you can also see the RSI indicator. It dipped down. I'd watch my charts, get as many indicators as you can before you do anything. Of course, the CPI numbers, you want to be careful with those. I did want to pull up Rocket Lab's revenue numbers just to show you that this is with a company that's had some time, a little bit more time than Astra underneath their belt. And you can see the revenue here hasn't been astronomical. So when Astra does start getting revenue, I don't know that it's going to be anything absolutely crazy. You're talking about $150 million backlog. And if Rocket Labs right now almost has, what did I say previously? I said 280 something. Let me take a look at the numbers so I don't have to guess. Yeah, it was 237. If they've got $237 and COVID really impacted them from being able to take advantage, and that's why their backlog has grown, you can see even with a $237 million backlog, $100 million over, and this is where we're sitting, I would say you really want to consider maybe having a larger portion in the short term of Rocket Labs. I think you're going to see the benefit faster than Astra. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what your comments are in the comments below. Good to be back, and I'm going to turn it back over to you guys. Be sure to like and subscribe.